like playing in his MVP shape. He was in the prime of his career. Sean Kemp was a great player, but like you said, nothing close to Pippen. I think they probably would have snuck through in either 93, 94, 94, 95 into a championship and would have won more than likely. I think having Pippen there really would have made that much of a difference where they would have been able to stake through. And even more, especially in 95, 96, they would have probably been able to take down the Bulls having Kemp over, Bulls not only, I'm sorry, the Sonics having Pippen over Kemp, but also furthermore, the Bulls not having Pippen, having Kemp. I mean, which again, Kemp would have been fine, but I don't know if they would have gotten Dennis Rodman that year. Who knows if even Jordan would have came back? But in this scenario, let's play that Jordan does come back, plays with Kemp. Who knows? They probably would not have gotten Rodman because they both played the same position, and at this time, it mattered. It was very important. Positions were very important. So they probably would not have gotten Rodman. Yeah, I still think the Bulls would have made the finals, but I think Seattle would have been able to take them that year, and probably a similar situation would have taken championships in 2 out of 3 years, I'll say. Probably in 93, 94, where Pippen was really just dominating the league, and in 95, 96, where the Sonics were pretty unstoppable, even though they were stopped. I mean, they were stopped by an even more unstoppable team, probably the most unstoppable team in history. So I think they would have taken 2 out of 3 championships, lost in between in 94, 95. And who knows about the 2 years after, 96, 97, 97, 98. Utah was real good at that time, so it would have been very fun to watch those series as well.
Yeah, I think I'll just talk a little bit about the Bulls so we can move on. But I just think that would make it a lot harder for Michael Jordan to win with the Bulls. Now, I still think Michael Jordan would be. I think he'd come back just because, he wanted to come back. He wanted to keep playing basketball. He wasn't good at baseball, and as competitive as he was, he had to come back and show that he can still play. I don't necessarily think that he wouldn't have won one. I think, a Longley, Kemp, Kukoc, Jordan, and a Harper starting lineup isn't bad. And I think that it's one that can definitely compete really well with the Sonics or the Jazz and still win. I'm not going to take that away from them. But I don't think 3 in a row would have been as easy because we know how well Jordan and Pippen played together. They're just perfect fits, and to having Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen on defense together, it's pretty much shutting down any 2 wings that are going to be playing against you.
Yeah, so real quick, I just did some quick research. This trade almost happened before the 1994 draft, so essentially 94, 95, 95, 96 would have been the years they'd be playing together, Pippen and Payton, and then of course 96, 97, 97, 98. Who knows, maybe Pippen would have stuck around an extra year in 98, 99. I don't think they'd be winning championships then. But, yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Kukoc, because then inserting Kukoc into the lineup would have been interesting to see how he does as a full-time starter for the Bulls and not just as a sixth man. So I think that really would have catapulted the Bulls into Eastern Conference championships. I mean, not catapulted them because that's where they were, but would have really pushed them into the championship even without Pippen and with Kemp. But I think not having Pippen and more than likely Rodman there would have really made it hard for them to win even one championship, even though I would definitely not have put it past Jordan. So moving on now into the 2000s, and not that we have a timeline here, but all our trades so far have been from the 90s, and the one I really want to mention here was right before Kevin Garnett got traded to the Celtics in 2007. It was rumored that the Lakers actually had a handshake agreement for Kevin Garnett. And I remember this very loosely. I mean, we were both, in 2007, we were both about 18. I definitely wasn't as knowledgeable as I am now on how everything works in terms of the lottery cap, trade rumors, and I didn't keep up with all that as much as I do now. But I do remember this being rumored, that Kevin Garnett being traded to the Lakers was a rumor. And this article that I read by Howard Beck confirmed it, that essentially that there was a handshake agreement between the Lakers and the Timberwolves to trade Odom and Bynum and probably some fillers, a pick for Kevin Garnett. And that, I mean, there's the whole conspiracy theory that Danny Ainge and Kevin McHale work together to make sure the Lakers don't get that, them being former Celtics. Whatever. I mean, I don't know if I believe that. I think Taylor from the GM of or I'm sorry, not the GM, but the owner of the Timberwolves did say that he did not want to trade Garnett to the Western Conference and that he preferred the package Boston offered.
Can you just remind me what was the package that Boston did offer?
So it was essentially, and let me take a quick look. It was essentially the main piece going was Al Jefferson, who had a good, who was up to this point was a solid player for Boston. He was young, had a lot of potential, and there was a lot of fillers. Let me take a quick look now who it was.
Well, I mean, that being said, I don't think just from hearing it, I mean, Andrew Bynum and Lamar Odom were probably going to at least be better players than what Boston offered. So it is kind of surprising that Timberwolves didn't do it. Now, this is, again, a little bit...
Well, we got to remember, too, that Bynum was only 19 at this time, and...
Yeah, but the prospect of him is probably better than what Al Jefferson was doing. I think, I think it's important to note that this is, 12 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever, where there's still this old school mentality where we're not going to trade him to the West. I really don't like that whole mentality. I mean, you have to, in my opinion, do what you feel like is best for your team. I think if we're going to talk about this in terms of the Lakers, I think adding Garnett. Now, obviously, in his older age, this isn't prime Kevin Garnett, but this is still, a leader, Kevin Garnett, and to play with Kobe, I think it would quickly propel the Lakers to especially with Paul Gasol, right? They still would have power.
Well, and that's what I wanted to keep going on real quick before you touch on anything. So they would have most likely still gotten Paul Gasol. I mean, the man was traded for a bunch of junk, which they still would have had even after this trade. And I mean, Garnett at this time, when he went to Boston, he was 31. Actually, I'm sorry, he was 30. Yeah, no, he was 31 when he went to Boston. Had just gone off a season where he averaged 22 points, almost 13 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.2 steals, 1.7 blocks, and obviously still had 3 real good years for Boston. Now the question here, I mean, Odom and Bynum helped the Lakers a lot in those championship years. By that third year in Boston, Garnett did start dropping down a little bit. He was still an all-star, but he did start dropping off a little bit. So essentially, the question I wanted to pose to you, would have the Lakers three-peated and would Kobe have gotten 6 rings had they made that trade?
I think a three-peat is more in play here just because, first of all, remember that who the Lakers are playing in the East, it was specifically Kevin Garnett's Boston Celtics, right? Especially the one they lose in 2008.
They lose in 2008 to the Celtics. They beat the Magic in 2009 with Dwight Howard, and they lost to the Celtics in 2010. I still think they would have beat the Magic in 2009. They would have beat the Magic in 2009. I agree.
In 2010.
That's the year I'm questioning.
Who are the teams? Magic, and who are the other teams?
The Detroit was probably still good at that time. I can't remember 2010.
Cleveland?
Yeah.
Which are garbage Cleveland teams.
Was it Cleveland or was it 2010 the year... what year did what's his name, LeBron go to Miami? I mean, Miami was good regardless because they had Dwayne Wade.
He leaves that year, right?
He leaves that year.
All 4 years of the Heat, he makes the championship.
Okay, so cool, yeah. Cleveland, Boston, Miami. I'm sorry, Cleveland, Boston, Toronto. They were all good because they had Bosh, Wade, and James all before they combined. I believe the Bulls were solid at that time. So
I mean, their Bulls were still young. They still didn't. The Derrick Rose breakout MVP period was the next year. I believe. I could actually be wrong at that, but I believe it's the next year. I think that the chance of three-peat there is higher just because the competition would have been worse, and I do think that, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, Paul Gasol, and I don't remember who else would have been there, would have been able to win a lot of games in three-peat. especially since in the West there was, besides Phoenix, because after '07 the Spurs kind of dropped for a couple years. Mavericks are kind of, there. So I do think it'd be, I think the Lakers would be the ultimate favorites to win three in a row, and that way Kobe would be able to reach his idol Michael and have as many championships as him.
Yeah, so looking real quick, Atlanta was good at that time. Chicago was the 8th seed, so they were decent. Milwaukee was a 6th seed. Toronto actually didn't make the playoffs with Bosh, but yeah, Boston finished 4th, went 50-32. Obviously, Garnett led them over Cleveland that year and to make the championship. So as much as he was getting older, he still led them to the championship past Cleveland. So
I mean, defensively, he was a fantastic player still, and I think I do think adding Garnett there. I'm glad this trade didn't happen, even though the Lakers did win 2 of the next 3 championships anyway. So it's pretty cool how this is working out. Because my other rumor, because there's also another rumor around this where I wanted to discuss about Kevin Garnett being traded to Phoenix Suns at this time for Sean Marion.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was for Sean Marion. I remember this.
So
I remember hearing about this, too.
The only thing I'll say is Sean Marion ended up, I don't know if he had a no trade clause or whatever, but he ended up saying no to this trade. I'm guessing Sean Marion wouldn't have a no trade clause, but whatever the reason is, Sean Marion maybe didn't plan on resigning with the team. So Kevin Garnett to the Suns with Amari Stoudemire. What do you think?
With Amari Stoudemire and with Steve Nash, I mean, I think, well, it's hard to see. This one was in what year? 2007 as well?
Yeah.
Before I mean, easily should have won. Easily would have probably.
Well, they would have to compete with the Lakers, right?
Yeah, but
2008 would have been the year.
They would have had to compete with the Lakers, but without, having Garnett over Marion, and obviously the Lakers still would have had what they had, but yeah.
He played in the Western Conference Finals that year, right? I think it was game 6 games.
Yeah, I think they would have beaten them with Garnett there. Especially, I'm trying to remember how those 3 seasons, because we're really, again, focusing on 2007, 8, 8, 9, and 9, 10, but it's hard to see the Lakers beating this team. Phoenix in 2007, 2008, I'm trying to remember how many games they won that year, but let me take a quick look at that. 2007, 2008 won 55 games with the team they had. I don't see how they don't make it past the Lakers and win. Really, and win a championship over probably Cleveland, because Boston wouldn't have made it that year. Same with 08, 09. These were the years that Steve Nash was extremely good, and having Garnett with Amari, all they needed was somebody on the defensive end to really change their culture. And that would have would have been Kevin Garnett. So yes, I think they would have won.
Yeah.
Probably in 07, 08, and I don't know if they would have won in 08, 09, but 09, 010 they probably would have won. So I'd say 2 out of 3 championships would have been theirs.
Yeah, the only thing I will say is that Sean Marion was also, we can't forget how important he was for the team with the Suns, and he's defensively, his numbers defensively is like 2 steals, 1 block. They're really good, 9 rebounds at the small forward position. But adding Kevin Garnett, obviously, at least for the next 2 years, I think would put the Suns over the top. I do think that those playoff series with the Lakers will be super exciting. I don't think they're a shoo-in to beat those Lakers, but I do believe they would be able to win at least one of them and ultimately probably winning a championship, because once again, Garnett doesn't go to the Celtics, and the Celtics are not as good as a team, and the rest of the East is really not that much better.
Yeah, so I remember hearing about this one too, and it would have been very fun to watch. Having Garnett, Amari, and Nash play together would have been something special, I could imagine. Same with Kobe and Garnett. I remember how excited I was to hear Kobe and Garnett playing together. The potential of those two playing together, and obviously this was before Paul Gasol got there, but I remember how excited I was. hearing that Garnett and Kobe might actually, because really at that time I seen those two players as the two best players in the game. LeBron James was coming up, but he wasn't the best yet. Obviously, Duncan was there.